Hello everyone, welcome to this third session about deductive versus inductive teaching. Welcome Karina to this third virtual session.
Hello everyone and hello Danny, thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure to be here with you one more time.
One more time. Teachers will remind you that in teachinghelp.net platform you can find more courses, lesson plans, a community to share, formats, material, information about English teaching. So we invite you to take more courses related to English teaching and to improve your teaching techniques so we can give a better service to our students. Today, the topic is deductive versus inductive teaching. And with us, we have our virtual trainer, Karina Alvarado. Academic and working experience as an English teacher and right now as an English teacher trainer of teachers. And it's a pleasure to have you, Karina, in this third session, sharing for third time with us, and today about a topic that is very interesting. So tell us about the goals of this session, Karina.
Sure. Well, today we have 4 objectives or goals to understand what deductive and inductive teaching is. And Danny, would you like to read the second one?
To learn the advantage and disadvantages of each style.
And the third one, to understand when to use deductive and inductive teaching. And the last one, Danny?
To observe a real example of how to use each style.
Perfect. Okay, so we hope all of you are ready to engage into a new learning process with us.
Okay.
Well, right here we have, let's see, a definition of what is deductive teaching and what is inductive teaching. Basically, deductive is, or the deductive approach involves the learners being given a general rule, which is then applied to specific language examples and through practice exercises. So here, you are the one that is giving your students a rule, or a specific or general rule. Then versus the inductive teaching, we have an inductive approach involves the learners detecting or noticing patterns and working out a rule for themselves before they practice the language. Do you see the difference between the two of them, Danny?
Well, I see it like teacher-centered and student-centered difference, like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that can be one way to understand the difference between deductive and inductive teaching, or the deductive and inductive approach. In the first one, deductive, you are the one that has the knowledge, thus you're the one giving them
Me as the teacher.
rules or the theory that you're teaching. Exactly, yes, the teacher is the one giving out the rules.
Okay.
Versus inductive, you are just a guide for your students. You're guiding them through the process of learning and you're letting them get the knowledge through observation, through practice, through exercises.
All right, so in deductive, I am the source of information and I tell my students how the rules work and how the theory works, and I explain it. And in the inductive teaching style, I help my students discover the theory, discover the rules by themselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You couldn't have said it better.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, here is what we were talking about. Let's just a little example. From the first one, deductive, you go first one with the theory, then the generalization, and the last one, the examples here. Versus inductive, you go the other way around. You first start with examples, then you go through the generalization, and lastly, through the theory. So you let your students understand the generalization and the theory through the use of examples. So you're not the one giving it, you're the one letting them discover that information by themselves. Versus deductive, where you're giving all the information.
All right, I see it more clear here. Like in an inductive approach, First, I will show examples to my students, and I will ask them to come up with generalizations out of these examples, right? So for examples, I share with them sentences in future with will, and I will ask them, what do these sentences have in common? And they will discover by themselves that all of these sentences use the word will. So the generalization will be that sentences in future include the word will. And that's how they will come up with the theory.
Yeah, and by theory we understand the rule or the structure or the form of the language that you're teaching.
And the other way, deductive, I first explain this is how you write sentences in future with will. Then we come up with a generalization. And then they practice with more examples, which is the most common way of teaching sometimes.
Exactly, yeah. So basically, here another example to say it is deductive starts from general to specific, versus inductive you go from specific to general.
Okay, from specific to general and from general to specific.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so let's continue.
Oh.
There you go. So here we have a chart where you can see the difference between both approaches or both teaching preferences. First we have deductive teaching, rule-driven learning versus discovery learning. So here deductive, it is based on the rules or the structure of the grammar, versus inductive, you're letting your students discover the language.
Okay.
Then second, would you like to read the second one?
Deductive teaching. Learner gets ready-made information and makes use of it. And in inductive teaching, learner acquires first-hand knowledge and information through observation.
Yeah, so basically here in deductive, you have already the information. So you have prepared the material before and you have it and you hand it out to them and you tell them, so look, listen here is the structure for simple present. And then you see that is you see the subject, the verb, etc., etc. Versus inductive, you give them, as you were saying in the last example, you give them the sentence example, and you let them, through the use of their observation or through discussion, to discover the language that you want them to discover.
Okay.
Then we have, it is an effective and quick process for deductive, and inductive, it is a slow process. This is a key and very important information for both, because deductive, yes, it takes less time because you are the one giving them information. Versus inductive, it takes more time because they are analyzing, they are trying to understand the information that you're trying to convey from them.
Sure. Yeah, like if you want to learn something fast, the best way of doing it will be in a deductive approach, right? Like someone explaining you how it works and giving you the rules. So it's an effective and quick process. But I think that in a long term, inductive is more effective, no? Like it's harder to forget something that you learn from observation and from your own practice.
Yeah, and basically that guides us to the last difference that we have here. With deductive, it encourages dependence on other sources, so learners are always seeing the teacher or other sources as the main, they will always go and ask you. However, if you use inductive teaching, it trains the mind and creates self-confidence and initiative. Because as you were saying, if they discover things by themselves, it sticks on their mind and it trains them to continuously use that skill that you're teaching them.
Okay. So, is deductive teaching approach a bad one? A bad approach?
No. Well, for what I have said, it might look like it, but it is not bad. It depends more on your objective as a teacher. It depends on what you want to gain from your students. you don't necessarily have to use all the time inductive teaching, because as teachers, we know that we have limited amount of time sometimes, and we need to focus on sometimes, or maybe the grammar is a little bit too difficult, and we are the ones that need to give it to them, to our students. Okay. So it depends on what we want and what we need from as teachers.
I just had this on mind. On the top of these presentations, there is a source about a book called How to Teach Grammar by Scott Thornberry. In this book, I read something about inductive versus deductive approaches. In an example in this book, deductive approach or deductive learning is explained with a very clear example. So it says that you as a foreigner, you visit a country where you have never been before, and someone tells you that when they meet each other, when they greet each other, they rub their noses. So therefore, you are prepared that when you're gonna meet someone new, you are prepared to rub the noses of each one, right? But the other way, an inductive approach or inductive learning could be exemplified by you as a foreigner getting to this new country and you know no one, and you see that other people, when they meet and they greet each other, they rub their noses. So you see that everyone is doing that. So your generalization is that, okay, when they greet each other, they rub their noses. So your theory or your rule will be that when you meet someone new, you will rub their noses, right?
Yeah, like I think that pretty much explains the difference between inductive and deductive teaching. And, for in the first example, somebody told you why they were doing that specific reading, versus inductive, where you had to observe and then you came out with your own ideas and then you confirm the information.
Yeah. Sorry, it was just to clarify that part. I just had it.
Perfect. No, it's okay. That's great. So you internalize the information.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So let's continue. Then we have, when to use them. Basically, that's what we were discussing just some seconds ago. That it depends. It depends on the difficulty of the topic. For example, you're teaching second conditional and you have a limited amount of time, and you decide that it's better for you to use the deductive approach rather than the inductive, because the inductive is going to take a lot of time. Maybe you would like to use the inductive approach for the third conditional, for example. So it depends on the difficulty of the topic and the level of your students, and that's super important, and the objective you have as a teacher. If you want for this specific lesson to develop, so they develop critical thinking skills, or if you just want them to go through the process and learn what you are giving them.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we as teachers, we don't teach second conditional once in our life, right? Like to the same students, we will teach this same topic in a year, maybe twice, 3 times, 4 times. So I would say we can use a combination of them, no? Like first start with a inductive approach, just to force them think. And once they get a theory, or once they come up with their own generalizations, we can start teaching it more deductively, I think.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, something that you were saying is that if you use it continuously, you're going to train your students to think. And that might be very helpful for you. Like at the beginning, like the first lessons, the first inductive, the lessons that you use, it might take a lot of time, but maybe with the time that you're constantly using it, it may take less time because your students are already trained to look and observe for the language that you are teaching them.
All right.
And okay, and let's see, something very important to mention is that in there are some benefits for the inductive teaching approach, and even though it takes a lot of time or it takes longer time, students get more critical thinking skills to figure out the language. Students also gain a deeper understanding of the language because they have analyzed it already. And also the benefits of the deductive approach. For example, you have the time in the classroom is spent more efficiently, and creating material is easier for you as a teacher, and also the use of material is easier and faster for the students.
Okay.
That was just something to mention.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's continue with the example.
Okay, let's do an example. This example was taken from the link that you can see there, teachers. So let's do it.
Here you go. Let's do it. Okay. So the first one, let's pretend I am the teacher and Danny, you're a student.
Okay. Student mode.
Student mode. Okay. So let's see. So, hello, Danny.
Hi, teacher.
Okay, so today we're going to learn a little bit about the present versus past tense.
Okay.
So as you can see here, we have the usage of each tense. For example, in the affirmative form, we have they were friends, and then we have the subject plus the verb to be. And in the other tense, we have she worked yesterday. We have the subject versus plus the verb and the ending ed. Okay. Then we have the negative form where we have they were friends, and we have as a structure on the form subject plus a verb to be in a negative form plus the complement. Then we have in the past tense, she didn't work yesterday. We have subject plus did not plus verb plus base form. Then in the questioning or interrogative form, we have they were friends, and then we start with the verb to be, was, were, plus the subject plus the complement. Versus the past tense, we have did she work yesterday? We have did plus subject plus verb in the base form. Okay. Do you see the difference, Danny?
Yeah, there is a difference. Yes, I see it.
Okay, so we're going to work on an exercise so it's easier for you to understand the difference between the two of them.
Okay.
So in the first, if you see the worksheet, we have a space for the present tense, and then we have another space for past tense. And I would like you to write one sentence for each one, please.
Okay, I will try my best.
Okay, thank you very much. Now let's take out your student hat and put your teacher hat, please.
Teacher mode.
Okay, so here, do you think this was an inductive or the deductive approach?
Well, you started right away with the structure, with the grammar structure of present and past tense. So I guess it was a deductive approach.
Yes, you're right. It was a deductive approach because we started with the grammar and the form, and then right away we started with an exercise.
Okay, so this is how English is taught normally, no? Like, teacher will explain the rule, then you will do some exercises to practice until you get expert on the tense, right?
Yes, yeah. You will say that, or I will say that the deductive approach is related to the traditional teaching way, where the teacher is the one teaching and the one that knows everything and is the one that is giving out the information, and the student is the receiver and the one that has to practice the language.
Yeah, I felt you were super smart when you were explaining me all of this.
Thank you. Okay, so let's continue with the second example.
Okay.
Second one.
Student hat.
Okay, so student hat on, teacher hat on, and let's start. Okay, Danny.
Hi, teacher.
So here we have, let's focus only on the first two sentences where
Okay.
there is a plus sign, which is present and past. And we have in the first sentence, you live in Spain, and in the second sentence, you lived in Spain. What difference do you see in those two sentences?
There is an extra the.
An extra the, okay, okay. Do you think these two sentences mean the same? Or that they have the same meaning?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay, so you live in Spain, and the second one, you live in Spain.
I lived in Spain.
You lived in Spain.
So it's the past.
So let's say you live in Spain. Exactly, yes. So you live in Spain
Okay.
today, and you live in Spain in the
past.
in the past. Yes, exactly.
So I live in Spain
Okay,
today, and I live
Uh-huh.
in Spain in the past.
Exactly. So you will say that the first sentence is in past or in present?
The first sentence, I live in Spain, is present.
Present. And the second one?
You lived in Spain, is past.
Is past. Okay. So what would you say is the difference between the present sentence and the past sentence?
The difference might be when you are talking about the past, you have to add an extra the to the verb.
To the verb? Yes, perfect. Okay. So right now you know the difference between the present and the past.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so right now let's continue with the next example, and we'll continue discovering, okay?
Sure.
Okay, let's take out your student hat and put your teacher hat on. Okay, so tell me, Danny, did you see a difference between the two ways?
Yeah, of course. In this example, you didn't explain me the whole structure. You gave me an example first, and you guided me to discover what's the difference and to discover what's the rule for past tense.
So it wasn't me the one giving you the answer, it was you, right?
Yeah, I felt I was like the center of the class.
And we can do this activity. This is not something that you like the teacher are the one that is giving information. You can do it in a different way. That you can prepare a set of sentences, and you ask your students to classify them into past and present, for example.
Sure.
And then you ask them like to discuss in groups what is the difference, or circle the word that is different from each other. And that's how you're going to clarify the form. And the meaning, you can use images where you have yourself today and you have yourself in the past.
Sure. Wow.
So you can do it in many different ways.
Yeah, so like the more activities you do, not explaining the rule, but using examples for them to learn the difference, the more inductive approach we are having. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. So let's go to the next slide, and we have our experience and advice. Would you like to read the first one then?
Sure. So you should try and compare both of these teaching styles to determine which is more effective for your students. Yeah, I guess that as we said before, it's not that deductive teaching is bad or that inductive teaching is better. It's just that depending on the topic, depending on the difficulty of the topic and the level of our students and our objective as teachers, if we want our students to learn this topic very fast or effectively, it will totally depend on what style we choose. So we should combine it. we should combine and see which of these is more helpful for our students.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you need to use them both and then decide which one is better for your students or for you as a teacher. Then we have students are also sources of information. This is very important. Our students, they have a lot of information. So let's use the information that they have, their experience, their context, their knowledge, in our advantage. Because if we get the information that they have, if we use tools for them to take out all of that information, you're giving them skills, and you're not like you're training them to be critical and to be analytical about the things they know, and they understand and they know how to use it as well.
I totally agree. Students are also sources of information, not only the teacher.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as we have seen, teaching has been changing a lot, and it's a two-way learning. So you're not, yes, you're the expert on the language, but it doesn't mean your students cannot provide you or can help you with the information that they have.
For sure.
Okay. Then we have
You
the last one.
shouldn't only teach deductive or inductive lessons. You might vary the styles depending on your students' needs. Yeah, it's basically the same advice. We should adapt our lessons based on our students' needs. Like, that's the most important thing at the end.
Yes. So my advice will be like, inductive teaching tends to be more efficient in the long run. Like it will take you time to get results, like faster results, but it is more effective. And however, deductive teaching is less time consuming. So keep in mind your objectives. So you try and compare both and see which one works better for you.
Yeah, that's right. And we have a beautiful quote about Henry Mayu. The deductive method is the mode of using knowledge, and the inductive method the mode of acquiring it. Yeah.
Okay, so here we can even combine both methods. So you can, for example, use the deductive method to give them certain theory that you want to know before, and then you use the inductive method for them to internalize it.
Yeah.
And you decide.
Yeah, my final comment is that whatever we learn inductively by ourselves, whatever we discover by observation and by our own practice and experience, is harder to forget than if we learn it deductively. That would be it.
Yes. Absolutely, yeah. Like if you're producing your own knowledge and like you're taking it out from you, it is better somehow because it's harder to forget, as you were saying.
But as teachers, we have to see if we want to be more effective and less time consuming, or if we want to have this inductive effects in our students. So that's it by now. I think it was very clear the way you explained it, Karina. Thank you. And teachers, you now know the differences between deductive and inductive method when we are teaching. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just a term. It's just to combine them and just to see what's the best decision or the best option to use based on our students' needs. So thank you so much, Karina, for sharing with us in this third virtual session. I really hope to have you in the future with another topic, but for now, I think we have helped teachers a lot with your knowledge, and we are so thankful with you.
Thank you, Danny, for having me again. And I hope that the information is useful, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us in the platform where you can ask or comment anything related to the presentations or even any other questions
For
that you
sure.
might have.
Our emails will appear there in the screen, so you can contact us for anything that you want. And that's all for today. Thank you, Karina. See you in the next one.
Thank you, Danny. See
Bye,
you in the
teachers.
next one.